Hello everybody, I'm just waiting for the blue circle to quit spinning so that I know that I'm live. So I'm just going to give it another minute before I begin today. Say good morning from Japan to everybody who's tuning in live. And it's another glorious early spring day, if we can call it early spring yet. I think we can here. So I think we're good to go. Welcome to the 6th edition of the Legit e-Biz show. And today I've got something special planned because we're not going to talk specifically about online business, but something that I think just about every entrepreneur I know can relate to, and it's the imposter syndrome. And this is something that I've heard a lot lately discussed about it, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it with you because it's something that I think most of us have to deal with and contend with at some point, no matter who we are. So I see I've got one person who's tuned in live. Hello to whoever you are. I'm not able to see who you are, but thank you for joining. And I would just like to start by sharing with you something that I said when I was recently asked by a friend about imposter syndrome and how do you overcome it. And I actually said something that I want to read to you what I said because I don't think I'm going to remember it well enough to reiterate it back. But what I said was, the truth is, I've been called to do something, and it's not my business or my place to question my ability to do it. If I'm feeling like an imposter, it's because I'm looking too far ahead of where I am right now. And that's the perfect tip-off to dial back my attention onto this moment right here, right now, which is where I think most of us strive to live all the time anyway. In this moment right now, it is not possible to be an imposter, or I would not be here, right? And when you think about it, it's really true. And I think that is a great way to quickly remind yourself and ground yourself back in the present situation that you're in right now, in your reality, in your moment, in the now, and be back where you need to be, rather than thinking so far ahead to your goals and your dreams and your aspirations and these places that you want to go and thinking, oh, how can I ever do that? How could I call myself that, or think that I could contend or compete with these people who are so qualified? And the truth is you can. And if you think back a number of years ago to where you are now, you may have thought the same thing about the person you've become today and what you've had to move through in order to become who you are now, and with the skills you have and the things that you do and what your position in this world is. As we get to the places we're going in our life, we've automatically gone through the stages that require us to have risen to that level. So the idea of imposter syndrome is something that is a future fear that hasn't even happened. Like it really, when you break it down into those terms, it becomes so clear how ridiculous it is to even think about that, because it's even more silly than worrying about something in the future that may or may not happen. It's the same idea, and it helps, I think, to just ground you into the moment. And I was really surprised recently to find out that there's a lot of people who don't even know what imposter syndrome really is, and maybe that's where I should have started. But I'd like to just share with you, basically, if you don't know, it's the feeling where you think that you've somehow gotten to this place, but you don't really have the credentials to back it, is kind of what it boils down to. That all of the other colleagues around you and competitors or people around you are so much better qualified than you are, for whatever reasons, to be able to call themselves a certain designation or do a certain job or be able to promote or create things. And it's the false idea that you somehow don't have what it takes to really stand in that space yet. And it's got nothing to do with worthiness. That's a whole other ball of wax that we're not going to talk about today. But it's more of a case where you're letting yourself believe the false idea that you have not yet paid your dues in a certain area to qualify you, excuse me, to be an authority in that space. And that's what it really boils down to. Just got to grab a sip of my water because I can. Sorry. It's still a little bit on the early side here, and it takes a while for my throat to open up. So, but that's basically the idea behind it. And surprisingly, 70% of all human beings experience imposter syndrome. So it's something, whether you know what the title is or what to put, then what to call it or not, it's something that we all go through, and it's always surprising and a relief to me when I realize and become aware of how many other people are experiencing a similar like issue, because you realize that you're not alone, and don't we tend to think, oh, you know, I've got all this self-doubt or all this crazy stuff going on in my head that's preventing me from moving forward, and I'm the only one. I mean, we think that, right? And it couldn't be further from the truth, because everybody experiences the things that are going through your mind and your heart right now too. And knowing that there are other people out there who are in it right now, and also who've moved through it, is something that just it's beyond consolation. It just, I think, gives us a real good basis to know it doesn't have to hold you back. It doesn't have to keep you stuck. So being open and forthwith, I think, is such a great thing, because it's the fastest way to win the hearts and minds of people. And most of you who've been watching my show know that I've got a lot of training under my belt in marketing and digital marketing specifically. And this is where we start. This is ground zero when you're putting together any kind of a promotion or a program even. You're starting with how can I reach somebody's heart and mind? How can I, truly reach them on a deeper level without just doing the crazy, salacious little quick ads or silly things that just grab attention? Because our attention span, apparently now we're even less than a goldfish, which is like 3 seconds. We're down to 1 second. If you can't grab the attention of somebody in 1 second, they're gone. So it's a tough nut now to do. But basically, being able to be vulnerable publicly is something that is such a genuine and heartfelt place to be. People love it. And that's why we're always rooting for the underdog, right? And everybody loves the comeback story. And when somebody is openly being vulnerable and being so courageous to put their heart out there on the line for everybody to stomp all over, we recognize that right away, and that's what draws you in. So the whole idea of having stories to share with people and with your market, with the target, the people that your audience that you want to help and serve and reach out to, this is often one of the best places to start, is with your own faults and bad experience or character traits. And some of the training that I've had recently talks about making your mess your message, and probably a lot of you will understand that too and resonate with it, because you've probably heard it as well. But I think there's also a fine line between, like completely unzipping yourself and opening everything up for the world, which is not necessary and probably not wanted either, right? Compared to just basically publicly admitting or being willing to stand in your space that you're an imperfect human being who's a work in progress, and please be kind. And that's kind of what it boils down to. So if we can incorporate that into our business as we go, it's something that you will set the foundation for your people and your audience to be so strong, because you've brought them into your fold under a completely different pretense, where everybody else, what are they doing? They're offering the best deal, the fastest turnaround, the greatest, strongest products, or, all that stuff. That's the same thing everybody else is offering. And that's why they're all getting those same results. So being able to start from a place with your business where you are actually wanting to begin by figuring out how to serve the people you want to work with. And it's kind of like the whole reverse engineering of the entire process is what's so interesting to me, where normally, like my background, most of you might know, is the private label business in Amazon. I built 3 brands, and I brought a couple of dozen products to market during that time. And wrongly, in some of the cases, what I did was find a product first. And then I later learned and adjusted and pivoted, and I decided, okay, no, what I'm going to do is pick the target, pick my people, my audience, and then find a product for them, right? And that's really the best place to start, is by looking at who do you want to work with, because you really can choose. You really can. And if you can choose, why would you work with anybody you don't really want to spend time with? Like, pick and carve out and create that absolute ideal customer. And that is your person. That becomes your avatar. That becomes your target audience. And from there, you figure out, what does that person want and need, and how can I fulfill that for them? How can I be of service and help them? And in most cases, I mean most, like more than 9 times out of 10, who is your target market? It's almost always you, which is actually great, because you kind of know yourself, right? So it's not that difficult. Like, at one point, I had a target market of young teenage boys. I guess that's not so young if they're 18, 19, but who wanted to. They were into sneakers and buying up all these different shoes, running shoes from the different brands, and the Nike and the Jordans and all this, and it's a real specific market, and it's interesting on a lot of levels, but I'm not a 16 or 19 or 22-year-old boy, and for me to be able to figure out how to talk to them and how to market to them, it's just kind of crazy, right? And of course, I could have hired out, and I did sub out so that I was like on point in terms of how to reach that market. That couldn't be more polar opposite than myself. But that's why, if you do find that your target market is yourself, it's actually a blessing in disguise, because you just know what you need and what you want, and you have to just step through that, again, that little bit of the uncertainty and perhaps some self-doubt, and know that your fears and your hopes and dreams and your aspirations are maybe not identical, but they're very similar to the other people who are just like you in your target, the other in your demographic. And having the courage to just step forward and go, I'm going to do this because I know that's what I need, and I've done my little test market maybe, or you're testing things, right? We don't go all in. We don't put all our resources in one thing before we've tested it and we know it's going to fly. That's a lesson learned, and if it's hopefully you can just learn through somebody else who's already done that, and you don't have to waste that time or that money. But basically, that's I think what you want to do. And everybody I know in this space, and believe me, I've got a ton of entrepreneur friends after this last 10 years of working online. This is the strongest foundation you can build for your business. And whether you are beginning today, or you are already underway, and you want to maybe try and incorporate some of this now, it's not too late. It's definitely the place to go. And so what I want to leave you with is my segue into a very exciting development. I've been running a virtual challenge that teaches people about all the different ways to earn legitimate money online. How can you actually work from home and replace your income from your day job? Is it possible? It is possible. And there are a bunch of truly legitimate ways. And what I did was I created an assessment that takes people through the top 15 online businesses that are thriving right now today, not a couple years ago. And these aren't crazy ideas like, go start a dog walking club, or, clean your neighbor's house. These are legitimate online businesses that you can totally make a living wage or better from. With the idea that you would be replacing your day job at some point, potentially. Maybe you just want to do it on the side as a hobby. That's totally fine. But the whole point of it is that you are able to compare the pros and cons of each business model. You can look at what the reality is for how much time and money does it really take to get started. How much of a risk level is this business going to be? Am I going to be able to sell it down the road at one point? Is it really complicated to learn and do? How many hours a day do I need to do this? Because the sales pitches and the ads you hear and what you see on Facebook and YouTube, they're usually a little bit rosy, and if you're watching one from the guy who's got the Lambo and he's at the beachfront villa with the stacks of cash, I always like to throw that guy under the mat. But I mean, run the other way, because it's not going to be most likely anybody legitimate I know. That's not how you promote. That's not how you advertise. That is so over the top. So consider the source, this advice I've gotten from my mother for as long as I can remember, and it's good advice, and it's true, and that's what we should do. We should consider who the source is, and in this case, with this particular program that you can certainly have access to, it is an unbiased viewpoint of all the opportunities that are available, and it's not, no, nothing is for sale in it, although right now it is a demand only program. The challenge itself is not being run again live until June. So if you want to jump in, you can take the on demand at your leisure and purchase access to it. It's just now available for the first time ever, and this program is new. It does not exist anywhere else in the world, and it will save you time and money from going down the wrong path. And most of us do. You might think, "Oh no, I'm going to pick right. I know what I'm doing." And you're not the only one. A bunch of us thought the same thing, but I can tell you there's the majority of my entrepreneur friends, we've all pivoted in big ways over the years, especially recently, with what's happened and the changes in the world. So it's something that will definitely help you. And the terminology today that you might be hearing a lot of is can I collapse time, right? And the whole idea behind that is learning from other people's mistakes so that you don't have to waste that time making those mistakes yourself. And that is the purpose of any training, in my opinion, so that you know and can go forward, especially after comparing the pros and cons and apples to apples of all the models. By the time you get to the end of the 15 models, you're going to have a whole bunch of them pushed aside, knowing you 100% are completely uninterested in those for a variety of reasons. Maybe there's too much investment to start out with. Maybe it's too much time. Maybe you want to be able to sell a business down the road, and that particular model is not a sellable model. Things like that. But what you end up with most importantly at the end is a very short list of your ideal e-businesses. And what you can do from there is figure out which one makes the most sense to go with first, and start building a strong foundation based on good solid reasoning, along with this whole idea of creating yourself an ideal target audience that you're going to build along the way. And I am here to help you with every step of the journey. And if you want to reach out to me, you certainly can. You can reach me on email at heather@legitebiz.com. And I'm also going to put the link down below here for the on-demand program, but it's also a pretty easy one to remember. It's www.legitebiz.com/on-demand. And if you want more information, just go to that site, and there's a whole bunch more information for you there. And yeah, I would love to see you in the program, and would love to hear your thoughts about it after the fact, to know how you got through, what you thought, and which direction you want to go in now that you have the amazing information and know the reality of these business models, not the sales pitch that they're trying to tell you is the rosy picture of a couple hours a day and a couple of $100. And I mean, that's just not reality. And the last thing I want to say about it is none of these business models are get rich quick ideas. If you're thinking, if you're going to look for a quick tip, or, something that you can just throw a little bit of time or money at and it'll grow, this is not the case. This is not for you. Every one of these will require work on your part. And so just know that going in. Some more than others, of course. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up for today. Donette Award, where did I read that? Sorry, I didn't see your comment until just now. I don't know what you're asking about. Where did I read that? If you want to post again, I'll just keep talking for a minute here and see. And if I can answer your question, I'll be most happy to. But basically, this is my own work for the last 8 to 10 months, I would say. Once I decided about a year ago to pivot away from my Amazon private label business, that's when I decided to take a real deep dive and do a huge research project, the biggest research project I've ever done in my life. And I am a really good researcher, by the way. And this one is what I ended up coming up with was what is called the Legit e-Business Assessment. Legit e-Business Assessment. So yeah, it's well worth your time if you're in a position where you need to either figure out which online business to go with. You want to break away from your job. You want to create your own side income at home, and something reliable that you can count on and control. That's another huge factor, is that you can actually control, right? And not being at the mercy of a boss or a husband's income or whatever the case may be. Excuse me. So please do check it out. Donetta, sorry I'm not getting your reply, so I'll reach out to you personally and answer your question. But in the meantime, feel free to email me, and do tune in again. Same time, same place next week. I'm coming to you live every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time with the Legit e-Business Show. And on that note, I will look forward to talking to you again next week. And thank you very much for tuning in. Bye for today.